Yes, welcome, welcome, welcome. One and all, we do mean all. It's your boy, Nicholas Nilsson here. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Sunday. I cannot believe it's already May 31st. The year is flying by. And before we get into the subject of today's stream, I'll just talk a little bit about how it's going with my house project. I came out to rural Tennessee from the technological hellscape that is LA, Los Angeles, some years ago now. I had some savings from working in, I guess, the tech field. Not exactly, but I was the CTO of a small startup. I guess it's like tech adjacent. I was a project manager and became the CTO. But anyways, I had some money saved, but I had just been let go from my job, so I did not have employment to get a mortgage. And I thought, well, why don't I come out and try to strike out on my own? This was before I knew about anything like Return to the Land, what those boys are doing in the Ozarks. So I came out to rural Tennessee, bought a little over 2 acres of land with the intention of building on it, but it was some years before I could get the money, save up the money to actually embark upon such a project. And here I am, so many months into building. I started at the end of October, and I've been chronicling it slowly, going through the footage of building it on this channel. And this weekend I tried to dig my own well. As crazy as that sounds, it's about $9,000 to get a well drilled by a drilling company, which is more than I have at this time. So I found out about this method. Let's see. drillawell.com. My buddy sent this to me, and you can see, I maybe should have prepared some of the footage that I captured of attempting this. But this is essentially what it looks like. You're snaking. It's essentially like a drain snake or whatever that you're feeding into the dirt and just holding on for dear life as you snake this drill into the earth. And the idea would be that I'd be going down about maybe 100 feet, probably 80 or 90 feet before I hit water. But alas, this did not work. The drill runs on compressed air. I don't want to get too much into this. Paris has fallen. The capital of France is burning as we speak. Now, I don't want to exaggerate that. Like, again, they're probably going to get it under control eventually. But expect to see more and more of these events. There was some kind of soccer. These boys were playing footy over there, and they kicked off some kind of riot, even though that their team won, apparently. Figure that out. It's the LA Lakers approach to rioting, or LA Lakers fans' approach to rioting, which is even when you win, you burn down the city. But anyways, this drill method was a disaster. The drill works on compressed air, and so if you turn the drill off while it's in the ground, you're supposed to keep this hole flooded with water. See this hole here? You're supposed to keep this flooded with water, but since the drill is working on compressed air, if you turn off the compressor while it's in contact with water, it creates a vacuum that pulls all the sand, silt, and debris into the workings of the drill. Terrible design, I know. I don't know if there's any way to get around it. I have no idea about engineering or any of this, but I knew this going into this would be a problem. So the first time, after running the drill for maybe 15 minutes or so, just to kind of stop it and adjust things, I pulled it out of the water. It was not in contact with water, and yet still turning off this compressor created some kind of vacuum, or maybe there was just enough debris still in contact. It hadn't been dripping enough. Like maybe I was supposed to keep it out of the water for a good 10 seconds or so. But anyways, that wouldn't have been too much of a problem. It slows the work down. You have to disassemble the entire drill and clean it meticulously. That would have been tough enough, but I could not get the drill disassemble, or I could disassemble it. I cleaned it, but I could not get it back together. It just fit too tightly. Again, this is the hazards that come with DIY. I guess just DIY everything. I should also say, I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, that it is well into springtime here in Tennessee. I am slumming it as trailer trash right now, and it is simply too hot to run or to do this stream without the air conditioning. Boys, I'm in a bad place. Like, again, this has been, I am the eternal optimist, but I've been hitting a few crisis points in this project that have really taken the wind out of my sails, so to speak, or at least to the extent that I'm going to need a few days to recover. But you're not here for that. I want to talk today about what is going on in gay old Paris. We are also going to be talking about remigration today, one of the most exciting specters on the European horizon. Before we get into that, yeah, follow me on Twitter if you please. Let's just do this. Let's just look. Let me just show you guys, because again, I don't really have much to say. I know nothing about this situation, but it seemed like good enough clickbait to at least mention it in today's stream. What is going on in Paris? Following the PSG's Champions League victory, Paris has turned into a war zone. Funny how that happens, right? Why would that happen? You are going to notice a few similarities between this and all the other again, it's not a protest. They're not protesting anything. If anything, they're protesting the hegemonic reality that France is filled with French people. That seems to piss off people that aren't from France but live in France for whatever reasons. And so scenes like this are entirely common. They have been common since, I want to say, the 90s, surely on much a smaller scale. But you can find even movies highlighting... Oh, I was like, what is that sound? It's clearly this riot footage. They're going up against riot police. It's a nightmare. Like, who would want to live here? Let me see if I have any supporting evidence of what just the general everyday is like in the capital of France. The faded capital. Now, as much as I may not be a fan of Paris in general, or France, the French in general, I surely do want France to not be like this. Who would, not even migrants and asylum seekers want to be surrounded by this. This is what the and I know I'm talking like as if this may have been news to people 20 years ago, but obviously the left does not want to accept the idea that even migrants do not want to live around migrants, so to speak. Surely they want to be, or at least not this level of migrants. The reason why they come here in the first place, or come to Europe in the first place, is for the stability that is afforded to them by European rule. So how should we navigate this? Let me pull up a few clips here just to set the scene a bit. This was the video of me building this well, or that came along with building the well. Well, let's take a look at this. This was many years ago. Yeah, I recorded this back in 2020. This was from general protests in the, let's just say, the Muslim quarter. this is a regular scene. Yeah, anyways, you get the idea. Breaking out, what are these things called? I guess just barriers to use the rubble to throw at police. Animal doesn't go far enough. Like, animals can be trained, it seems. And yet these people are animated by a spirit that is entirely destructive. This is what I like to call the tourist effect. That if you are a tourist, you gain a sense of entitlement that kind of keeps you from appreciating the things around you. You treat it like you're on you treat a place like you're on vacation. Like there is no connection between you and the what would you say? The there's no accountability or responsibility inherent in your presence because you have played no part in shaping that world. The map has already been drawn, and this is a consequence also for people that are native to a land. Again, you'll sense this far more in Europe than you do in America. Having lived in Europe for a number of years, I can attest to this sense of when everything has already been, the lines have already been drawn on the map, you are lulled into a kind of sense, I don't want to say helplessness necessarily, but you have you experience less agency when everything is preordained for you. Whereas in America, we have much more the spirit of a new frontier. Even if the cities are as much of hellscapes as Paris is, there is still a prairie or a frontier or the middle America to expand within, even if it's already been mapped, so to speak. Let me see. Here's also a short one about, this speaks to my point I raised earlier about even migrants do not want to live here.
No, you can't tell me this is Paris. This is...
Let me see if the audio is coming in here.
Lomé or Côte d'Ivoire, some place in Africa, bro. Feels like I'm in Nigeria or Africa or something. What the fuck is this?
You like Paris, bro?
No, bro.
This is a real Paris.
Nah.
Sorry, let me catch up. I think my laptop is moving a little bit slow. But yeah, this American, this African, this black American comes to Paris and is shocked to see it not populated by French people, but by Africans and Middle Easterns and people from everywhere but France.
You know, Paris is a city really diversified. There is a bit of everything.
Nice.
So here is the African town of Paris.
Yeah. One more clip just to set the scene. Again, this should not be news to anyone, but I guess this is also this is a recent clip. There have also been clips, I should say, going around of the previous riots. Even Alice Wendell, the AfD president, the lesbian president of Alternative for Deutschland, Germany's MAGA movement, essentially, tweeted out a clip, or retweeted a clip, I guess, that was of migrants breaking into a car of someone, which I remember this clip distinctively from the previous year's riots, when there was a last, but here we can see, well, let me play this a little bit more. Un momento. Yeah, we saw this in 2020 with the Summer of Love, the Floyd riots. You saw this, I think, in 2022 or 2023, when there was another World Cup, not World Cup, but some kind of other protest or other kind of championship league. But here we have them in front of the Eiffel Tower, which is already a scene of incredible diverse, what is it? Diversification, I guess. But yeah, burning car. The symbolism is stark. Yeah, I do not know. Now, like I said, Paris was already fucked back in the 90s, but just not to this degree. Like, you had quartiers or little quarters that were just overtaken. I guess you would say no-go zones, so to speak. But what's funny, I guess I'll mention this, I don't know if this matters much, but I will say, even back, maybe this provides a little bit of context, like even back in the 20s or 30s, George Orwell wrote an incredible book called Down and Out in Paris and London. This is a great Orwell book, just about, I guess, poverty and in general, and he describes a Paris that is very much influenced by an internationalist element. When was this? Yeah, 1933. So the Paris of the 1930s was already experiencing a very substandard. Let's see. Okay, yeah. He just talks about living with a bunch of people from all over the place, pawning his goods. Yeah, the working poor, but it's very much. Yeah, so we got an ex-colonel of the Russian army having financial difficulties. He works in a hotel. It's a good book. I recommend it. Obviously, it's Orwell, so it's very good. Quite literally fighting for a place on the Paris metro to reach the cold, filthy kitchen by 7. Despite the filth and incompetence, the restaurant turns out to be a success. A plongeur is one of the slaves of the modern world. Not that there is any need to whine over him, for he is better off than many manual workers, but still he is no freer than if he were bought and sold. His work is servile and without art. And again, this is I don't want to say a posh Englishman, but this is a upper class Englishman striking out in this way. So, you know, there's some hyperbole here. But, so again, already, and great look here by Orwell. Loving it. I'm loving it. This is George Orwell based. Let's see, though. But yeah, that is the state of Paris. And how would you even conceive of a solution for a state so ravaged as this? Here, even Teresa Finn says, France was eaten by its colonies. These pictures out of Paris speak for themselves. The French are not to be saved anymore. Wow, it's bleak, boys. It is incredibly bleak. How would you even begin to come up with a solution? Well, I have good news. Good and bad news. Let's discuss this. There is a solution. Will we get it? No, we will not be getting this solution. But it is so exciting. And the eternal optimist within me, again, one of the motto for the channel, Narcan for the black pilled. I do not want you boys to black pill, but I also do not want to sell you any kind of blind optimism about the future. Any kind of salvation, saving from this dire situation for the entire European continent or Western European countries. will be fought, will be hard won, and will only be achieved through incredible sacrifice. But there stands at least a small possibility of a political solution. I know that sounds crazy. Politics, fake and gay. How could we ever find a solution that involves the bureaucracy and political machinery that has put us in this situation in the first place? It may not be possible, but if it were, I do have to at least bring up the specter of remigration. Yes. Say its name. Remigration is the solution to Europe's problems, if only we can implement it. Now, the barrier to remigration is also the barrier to... Well, let me show something a little bit more telling. The reason why I wanted to discuss this today, I've been following this subject for a number of months. It started really as just a concept, and at this point it still is. But what remigration represents is, if millions can come, millions can leave. Right? It very much is the specter of allowing Europeans to, I guess, chart their own future, and rejecting the idea that living next to white people is a human right. Someone recently articulated this in Britain very well, in England, I should say. Maybe we should... I don't know if we need to get into that, but let me suffice it to say this. There's a guy named Frank Wright who is a supporter of Restore, Britain's party led by Rupert Lowe, as opposed to Nigel Farage's Reform. They are talking about remigration as a possibility. I think he's even said the words, if millions can come, millions can go. Let's see. I want to show you just a brief clip of this.
Financially bankrupt across the West, across Europe, and in Britain.
Find
that
this
the whole
interview in
system
full.
is in a form of crisis. If you like, what we used to call normal life has been replaced by a
This
permanent
man
state of
in this
emergency.
dope hat
in terms of our
gave a
social
street
cohesion,
interview
in terms of
and
demographic
articulated
change, in terms of the
the
fact that there
issues
appear to be
that
no realistic solutions
of the modern
offered, and
world,
whoever you
and
vote
he even
for,
went
the
on
same
to
mad policies get
say
continued
here,
throughout
don't
your life,
mind
and that's what I've seen the
the
last 30 years. And if
retarded
it goes on, we're
recommendations I have.
finished.
So what does
Reality
finished look like?
is radicalizing
What does
people.
finished look like? Finished looks...
Maybe even just a short clip from the Peter McCormack show will give an insight into this. But the state is essentially that wars that have been created in the interests of... or not in Western interests. The West has been led into foreign forever wars that are not in our great interest. And this man, Frank Wright, articulated that even as, I want to say as early as the 80s, a certain Middle Eastern politician vocalized the need for a shift from diplomacy to a war on terror. We also have the... What am I thinking of? It's not the Lavon affair. There was a plan. Let's see. There was a foreign policy plan put forward in the early 2000s by the not Israel's Ministry for Foreign Affairs. I don't have the link. I'm not prepared for this. Whatever. Let's get back to the subject at hand. I'm blowing this very severely, but let's soldier on. There was a summit recently in Portugal for remigration. So I've explained, I think, a cursory definition of what is in store for or what the idea of remigration is sending millions back to their host countries, or even better, it's been articulated as creating, what would you say, I guess like satellite states. Martin Sellner, who has been, I would say, championing the cause most, he's an Austrian boy that I've mentioned once before on a previous stream. He's kind of leading the charge in the German sphere, so to speak. He's brought up the idea of sending people to or purchasing land in Tunisia to create cities. So basically all of the money, the tax dollars that are spent to house, support, and provide benefits for millions of migrants and immigrants in general, all of that money could be better spent, or even less perhaps of that money total could be spent to create settlements outside of the country where all of these people are exported to. We do not want nor need them. The idea, again, the meme is that they're all doctors and engineers, when clearly they spend their time, or they've been trained in much more nefarious acts that we shouldn't go into. But the evidence of those acts is clear to see in the UK's issues over the last decades in Rotherham and Rotham? Nottingham, many other cities. Too many to list. So we can send them back to their host countries or to settlements in northern Africa or elsewhere. Anywhere else but in Europe. And so, to sort of lead the charge in opening this for public discussion and to, I guess, spread the Overton window a bit wider, at least in terms of issues, this Remigration Summit was held recently in Portugal, just over the last week, I believe. Or last few days even, maybe it's just this weekend. And I'm hyped. It had people from all over Europe there discussing the specter of remigration.
Our willpower alone, we managed to force the public to finally open their eyes on the existential threat, which is mass migration, and to its only fully peaceful solution available, which is remigration.
Yes. So you had all the heavy hitters there. Martin Sellner, as I mentioned. This was pretty funny, but you also had yes, Max Merkel is a German boy who leads the Identitätsbewegung in Germany, which is, I think, not banned, but has had to rebrand a number of times, I think. Or maybe, I don't know exactly too much about the history. But it began, I believe, as even a French movement. I think as Generation Identity. Let's see. He was there, but he actually experienced a travel ban. They kept this man from leaving the country. He attempted to fly out of, I think, Munich, and they put a restriction on him. That meant he could not fly. He could not leave the country to attend this conference, which is the worst move that the German government could have done, obviously, because it brought a lot more press to the issue, even though it's just in right-wing circles, surely at the moment. But it at least lets people know the tenor of this discussion, which is the elites and internationalists and anti-nationalists do not want people to be discussing this issue. They do not want even the idea of remigration to be possible. So that stands, I think, as an interesting discussion point, which is, to what extent is this possible, or to what extent is the very idea itself dangerous to the ruling class? So whether or not people will actually be able to implement this, who knows? It's surely possible. Like, again, make no, have no doubt about it. This is it's absolutely possible to put people on planes and send them back. The money is surely worth it. What the cost is really is just breaking the conditioning of being taught that no human is illegal, there are no such thing as borders, there's no difference between people, everybody is equal. All of this kind of programming is deeply instilled not only in Western people in general, but in Germans specifically. They've been subject to some of the most intense and sophisticated indoctrination and trauma programming from a very early age. This is intentional, and you've probably experienced some of this as well if you exist in the world today. If you exist in a Western paradigm, you have been exposed to this type of propaganda, which is atrocity propaganda. It is being shown in scenes of incredible brutality in a specific context. And we don't have to get into it beyond that, but this man, Maximilian Merkel, was banned and yet still made a 22-hour journey to Portugal. Let's fucking go. He got in the car and drove from Germany to Portugal. I'm not sure exactly where Portugal this was, but here's another hyped piece of propaganda from, this is Eva Vladingerbroek, a Dutch bop who is, I guess, leading the Dutch charge. But she's got an iconic look, and she teamed up with Martin Sellner to introduce this Save Europe Act, which I guess is an EU proposition somehow. Whether it's a grift or not, I'm not sure. Whether it's effective, who will know? But as political solutions go, it's incredibly inspiring. Am I falling for the bait yet again? Well, that's yet to be seen. But it's, again, I'm thoroughly convinced, whatever the possibility of this being a political solution, I'm thoroughly convinced that at the end of the day, throughout all of history, it is ideas that start revolutions. It's ideas that allow us to break the conditioning of the post-World War II consensus in general. It's ideas that galvanize people around specific movements and inspirations and activations in general. Without ideas, nothing happens. So while I am guilty of sitting back and sort of prognosticating or just waxing philosophically about all of these issues, we will need boots on the ground and people actually getting involved. Ideas do start revolutions. Again, bombs may attract attention. We all know that there's ways that boys can get down in today's world. There's stuff to do, surely. Bombs will attract attention, but it is, at the end of the day, ideas that start revolutions. And so these ideas, I am nominating these ideas as incredibly powerful. Let's fucking go. Is this playing?
Europeans, it's 2 minutes to midnight. Right now, as you're watching this video, thousands of immigrants are pouring into our borders.
We are that close to becoming irreversibly and permanently.
So this is Martin Sellner, just to be clear, Austrian lad, who has been, I think, banned. I don't know about banned, but I think he was restricted from travel in Germany. He has been protested wherever he goes. Police have shut down his book signings or readings. He is very much a persecuted individual in the Bundesrepublik of Deutschland. But that being said, he is not quitting. Let's continue.
A minority in our own nations.
And I don't have to tell you what that's like. You know it. I know it. We all know it.
We have been talking about it for ages, but now it is the time to take action.
So today we are presenting the first ever patriotic European Citizens Initiative, the Safe Europe Act.
It's an official tool by the European Union, never been used by patriots before. It's a tool for every citizen to get involved in the policy making and put their interests in the agenda of the European Commission. And today we're going to do exactly that.
With the Safe Europe Act, we are demanding of the European Commission to take a stance on what matters most, acknowledging the ethno-cultural continuity of the peoples of Europe as crucial for its perseverance. We are demanding of the European Commission to install a total and full halt on non-Western immigration, both legal and illegal. From now on, no one comes in and millions go out.
We are demanding from the European Union to end all pull factors, benefits, and create a harmonized system for voluntary return to remigrate every single migrant who is a threat or a burden to our society.
Okay, so you can see the framing of this already, which is voluntary. Like, again, I'm not a fan of this voluntary migration. It's a half measure. But it may be a necessary first step. And again, remigration itself is only a first step, right? It is not the end-all, be-all. It's only the beginning of reversing the incredible, what would you say? Europe is behind the eight ball in terms of demographics, birth rates, just the influence of globalization, and as well capitalism more specifically. You could call it crony capitalism, but it's just capitalism. Like, at the end of the day, the specter of the Cold War paradigm of capitalism being the antidote to communism is a leftist framing in and of itself. I've heard it said before that it was not until Marx, the parasite of Marx and Engels' Communist Manifesto, that Western man began to conceive of his own system as dominated by capital. Surely capital was necessary in the creation of thriving economies, and yet to define the system by the generation of capital and speculation and investment is such a skewed perception that it shapes most of the problems that we have in today's world, of prioritizing investment over industry, so to speak. That's why you get things like outsourcing, and a defense of outsourcing is really because people understand the logic of, well, if it's a better investment to open the factory in China, why not do that? And so we've split the issues. Labor issues get assigned to the left, and investment and sort of free market issues get assigned to the right. It's been split in such a corrosive way, when in reality an identity-based system would prioritize the rights and the industriousness of a people beyond whatever kind of internationalist element would like to harness or exploit those resources from their internationalist position. And it goes for any internationalist, obviously. I hope I'm being vague enough. Let's continue.
But to do that, we need your help.
If we reach the 1 million signatures, we are forcing the European Commission.
Also, let me know, anyone watching, if this is coming through loud enough. Again, my microphone will be a little bit fucked because of the weather conditions, but let me know if you can or cannot hear this. Let's fucking go.
Not only to meet with us, but to talk about remigration in the European Parliament. Now, we're not naive. We know that the European Union doesn't care about the future of the peoples of Europe. But we are not asking for permission. We just act and create a political crisis for the European elites.
We will let the right-wing parties do the fighting from the inside, and what we are trying to do is unite and move the force of millions of European patriots towards the institutions and put pressure on them from the outside. By hitting the 1 million signature threshold, we will legitimize our movement and we will force them to take a stance. They want you silenced, we want you to be heard.
The first step in our plan is the kick-off phase. We are looking for 100,000 early signers, ambassadors, and an avant-garde for the whole campaign to get the other 900,000 patriots to sign and to legitimize our demand for remigration.
Don't sit back and watch Europe get destroyed. Demand your country back, for yourself and more importantly, for your children. Join the most important political campaign of 2026. Sign the Save Europe Act and join our movement.
Yeah, so I encourage people to involve. Now, is it too late? Like, is this just rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic, as they say? Perhaps. Perhaps this really is too late. But what else can be done besides, like, again, a more active resistance, I guess, can take place at any time. But it is almost necessary to, I guess this attends more to the issue of remigration in general. Yeah, so 2,000 signatures, guys. We need needs to get to 100,000. Let's hope that the momentum builds on this. Yeah, PS. Okay. An Arsenal fan getting attacked. Rough. But yes, on the specter of remigration, it is almost necessary. Again, they're pitching this as voluntary remigration, but the idea would be voluntary. My understanding, at least, is voluntary for people who understand that, look, this is harder than I thought. So many, I don't think you guys very much perhaps underestimate how many, how many migrants come to Europe delusionally thinking that it is just as social media depicts it to them. Because again, they are, let's just be clear, migrants are they are acting as bioweapons for a broader agenda. I hope that doesn't appear too conspiratorial to you, but whether or not you understand anyone to be at the wheel of such a conspiracy, like actors with agency conspiring to achieve a certain outcome, I guess conspiracy in the positive sense, not as a slur or a insult, but people conspiring to achieve a certain outcome. Whether or not you think there's anyone at the wheel of this, it's driven by, it's in the very least a consequence of ideological, I guess dead ends, but just ideological inevitabilities. Liberalism and egalitarianism as such, like a blank slateism, you could even refer to this, has brought people to such a state that they do not have the courage to point out that they would rather keep things the way that they were than artificially artificially manipulate them demographically. But that being said, the migrants, they see social media that depicts the welfare state of Britain, the the incredible access to jobs. We all know the thing from rap videos, people posting fat stacks of cash. That's the idea. That's part of the pull factor that takes these migrants to these countries. So even setting up a voluntary remigration scheme, it would surely deplete the agitation of the right. So it could be a half measure in that regard. But nevertheless, it would surely help ease the demographic strain on on Europe. But on top of that, I think Erik Dale is a guy on Twitter that I've seen discussing Norway, or no, I think it's Denmark and Sweden's he's discussed measures that have already been put in place where if you commit a certain crime or if you go on vacation to your home country, you are not permitted return, or something to that effect. Hell yeah. Here he is standing with Martin Zellner. He is with, I think that, yeah, Camus. Oh, this may be difficult to find. This was some months ago. He is Norwegian. I'm not holding that against him. I think he discussed Denmark. Implementing let's see. Yes. 10-point plan. Okay. So here we go. 90% of it has already been implemented in Denmark since 2015, parts in Sweden 2025, and elements in France, Austria, and Netherlands. No treaty violations, no successful European Commission on Human Rights challenges. Please read to the end. This is important. The 10 core measures already legal and ECHR tested. Cut the funding pipeline. End state subsidies to religious life stance communities except historic national churches. Require over 60% citizen members for any NGO grants. Again, if it's an internationalist group where people are not, where less than 60% are citizens of that country, you're essentially running a mafia within that host country. Ban all foreign funding of mosques, imams. Based. And again, this apparently does not have anything to do with the European Commission on Human Rights. You would have the ability to restrict the, what would you say, the financial coercion or manipulation within your own country. Radical welfare restrictions, the single most effective tool. Child benefits, cash support. Let's see, is this visible? Yeah. Child cash support stop at child number 3 for post-2026 arrivals. Lifetime social assistance capped, 6 to 12 months. 10 years residence plus proven full-time work required for unemployment disability benefits. Long-term welfare equals automatic loss of permanent residency. Based. Near total halt to new non-Western immigration. 0 UN quota refugees. Family reunion only after 4+ years. So again, the idea that if one person, this is like the anchor baby issue that we have in America. If one person is here, there is the pathway to reunite them with their family by bringing their entire family here. And we know in the United States the case of Ilhan Omar, who immigrated and said that I believe her brother was her husband. These pathways are exploited continuously. They know how lucrative it is to live next to white people, and they would almost kill to get out of their terrible countries. You might be tempted to say, well, that's because of colonialism. We have every type of example of countries in Africa that have been non-colonialized, decolonialized, every type of government government rule, communism, capitalism, anarcho-capitalism, socialism, democracy, republicanism. Every type of system has been tried, and there really does seem to be a deficiency, not a deficiency, I'll say an incompatibility with, what would you say, pre-literate civilizations encountering the literate world. There just seems to be a gap in training and education that means that familial ties and sort of tribal archaic networks supersede the emphasis on fair dealings and fair justice and fair rule. It seems to be that tribalism always wins out in scenarios such as this. Mass deportation of criminals and fraudsters, double deportation unit budgets. Easy, right? You just allocate more funds to them. Expel after any sentence of over 3 to 6 months. Yeah, why should we pay to imprison someone for longer than they've even resided in the country? Revoke status of everyone who lied in asylum claims. Hundreds of thousands of cases pending. So yeah, again, this idea of when you consider it a humanitarian crisis, somehow that white guilt is tied up in, then it really does seem to be something where it's like, okay, well, he lied. We have a 24-year-old who says he's 16, but let's, he's here. It would be too much trouble to send him away, so let's keep him. No, that has to be done away with. Generous return bonuses. We'll just go through the rest of these. Holiday in home country equals goodbye. Yeah, this is something that they've already, I think, put forward in Sweden. Automatic revocation of refugee status permit after any visit to the country of origin. Already law most everywhere, just enforce it. Public support for Sharia over national law equals public support for Sharia over national law equals expulsion. Immediate loss of residency for anyone openly declaring Sharia superior to secular law. Full face covering ban in public space. Niqab, burqa prohibited everywhere. Streets, shops, transport upheld by ECHR multiple times. And this has been proven in France, where again they will say, as if this has any kind of weight anymore, how racist or Islamophobic it is to ban the burqa. But again, if you don't like it, you can leave. You can literally leave. I know this isn't news to anyone further to the right of me, but many people just do not conceive of this as possible or humane, as if that had any kind of bearing on preserving the future of the indigenous people of Europe. But it really just is that Europeans have existed in such a demoralized state that even though they've been subject to murders and worse, let's say, or different degrees of worse for decades, it's taken this long to push them to the edge. And we really will see things. Let's see. So then the last one is no religious symbols in public authority roles. Yes, if only we had that in America. And yet our freedom of religion cope, even though that's far beyond the scope of how it was originally intended, has really just manipulated the goodwill of Western man to such an extent that we have allowed, what would you say, openly hostile and vindictive and vicious elements to rise to some of the highest public offices under this manipulated concept of freedom of religion. Again, if it's one of those things where, like, if anyone would say that the founding fathers would not be shocked and appalled at the state of this of America, you would be dishonest. You would be incredibly dishonest, or you would have to admit that they were somehow more as progressive as we are today, which would just be an incompatibility. Yeah, but Eric Dale has articulated this incredibly well. This is possible. It would just require people to not be afraid of being labeled racist. But once you dispel that canard, it really does become incredibly easy to advocate for the future of your own people. Why would you not? You do have to consent that you have been ideologically captured by an anti-nationalist, internationalist sentiment that seeks to rob you of everything that you have. And if you don't believe this, and if you would rather that migrants rule the country, because there is no way to conceive of, you either want to keep them eternally as almost post-colonial possessions, like your pets, to increase diversity and to offer vibrant street food and culture, so to speak. Europeans don't have culture, so we need to import these foreign, incompatible cultures. You either want to keep them in a subservient position, or you acknowledge that every human has the right to advocate for themselves politically, in which case there's a ticking time bomb of migrant enclaves that rightfully want to represent themselves in politics. Birmingham in Britain is a perfect example of this. Which is just such a nightmare state over there. And people have to openly campaign. Let me see. Let me just get some of the stats on this. City is notably diverse, with around 42% of its population being ethnically diverse and over 20% from overseas. It's fucked over there. And let me see if I can get some images of what it looks like. This is how diverse how successful the diversity has been. And there was a bin strike. So it's a little bit more complicated than migrants just being filthy. But let's show this. One moment. Yes, in Hamburg, here is a migrant housing facility. Oops. Take a look at this. Oops. Okay, here's a view into Hamburg's biggest asylum seeker enterprises. Yeah. Look at that. But look at the beautiful artwork that they bring. That is truly culture. And they just tore off the light switch or broke it from mishandling it. Like, again, this isn't to communicate some kind of, I guess, universal inferiority. It really just does speak to the gap that exists between, what would you say? It's the spoiled, it's the effects and consequences of being spoiled. When you haven't, and I can speak to this from personal experience, when you haven't built and fought for the things that you possess, you do not care for them to the same extent that you would if you had them hard won. We all know this, like the 16-year-old girl who gets, you know, a BMW for her sweet 16 and crashes it, or doesn't keep the coolant filled, doesn't get an oil change. You just do not have the same level of responsibility and care for the things that have been wantonly gifted to you. Oh, God. Oh! A fucking turd! A fucking turd on the... Oh, jeez! Well, you know why they do this, too? They surely assumed that this... Well, they filled the drain. They were probably stuffing toilet paper, if they even used toilet paper, down this hole. But then also in much of the Eastern world, they just have squatting holes. I remember the first time I saw a squatting hole in person was, get this, in northern Italy, across the Swiss or the Austrian border from Italy. I was in a small Italian town and walked into the bathroom and saw one of these. They have them in China, but specifically in the Middle East and such. Yeah, and also people in South and Central America will know this. You can't flush the toilet paper down most drains or down most toilets. The pipes just can't even handle it. And that's the case even places in the Middle East as well. But look at this, brother. Brother. That's not how you use a pipe, bro. It's supposed to go on the inside of the pipe. Motherfuck. Alright. I guess that's about it. I want to talk about one more thing. Now, this is getting... I know that... Look, boys, this is Truthmaxxing. I got to tell the truth. I do not want to get into the... I do not want to go full schizo mode to discuss this. But I do want to talk about... what would you say? How can I discuss this issue without sounding absolutely crazy? Oh, by the way, thank you. Shout out to today's sponsor. Let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor. One moment while I get the ad copy up here. Today's sponsor. Let's take a moment to thank today's sponsor. Okay. Yes, this is Chill Harder. Now, guys, this is a bit embarrassing, but I will do whatever I can for $42. Chill Harder is the first vapable CBD kratom erectile dysfunction medicine for sensual lovers. Now, I'm sure we've all been there. You're vaping your CBD, you're drinking your kratom, and your penis doesn't work. How many times have we all been there? Thankfully, Chill Harder allows you to, not only is saving you time, but it's saving you money. It is more expensive, but the money it's saving you is from getting, I guess, like a penis replacement surgery for your broken penis. This is the first vapable kratom ED CBD combo, but it's for sensual lovers only. You should not be using this to commit sexual crimes. It should be a romantic, ideally some kind of, it doesn't have to be within marriage, but it should at least be someone you know. You should not be attacking people and using this. But if you were to do this, you would be having the chillest time possible. Again, it fixes ED, there's kratom, there's CBD. What more do you need to know? Use promo code Nick Nilsson in checkout to get your first delivery with free shipping. That's Chill Harder. Go to chillharder.com and tell them your boy Nick sent you. The last thing that I want to discuss today, it's really another idea by Marshall McLuhan. If you saw the video that I put out recently on edits or schizo edits, which I thought was very good. Please share the video if you appreciated it. I discussed Marshall McLuhan. I think I mentioned him last stream as well, 2 weeks ago. Marshall McLuhan has an interesting idea on the effects of Sputnik. Let's pull this up so you know exactly what I'm talking about. For any of the Gen Alpha viewers, who are unaware, Sputnik was a Soviet satellite, and it was the first object to reach or to orbit space, I guess. First artificial Earth satellite. Now, Marshall McLuhan, I guess media analyst or media, what'd you say, media scientist, I guess? But he analyzes media. He had a very interesting comment on this. Namely, let me pull up my notes. Yes, so his idea essentially is that Sputnik created a new environment for the planet. In one of his interviews, he discusses this, and it just really reveals how uniquely his mind works. He says that Sputnik turned the entire world into a canvas. His argument was that Sputnik effectively enclosed the Earth within a human-made environment. For the first time, humanity could conceive of the entire planet as an object contained within a technological system. So prior to Sputnik, humanity, I guess, experienced the Earth as nature and technology as something operating within nature. After Sputnik, though, Marshall McLuhan determines that technology began to surround and encompass the globe itself. So Earth is no longer just the background against which human activity occurs or occurs within it. It became a figure inside of a larger technological framework. And this is the important framing that space exploration has. The reason why this is so fascinating, I guess I should introduce this, is one of the most powerful, it's simple, but it's incredibly effective rhetorically. One of the most powerful edits that I came across, and I've been trying to recreate this formula, but I don't know that I've captured the same kind of intensity that's contained in this kind of brute force mental hacking that occurs in this edit. Let's go over this very quickly. It's just super effective. I'm sorry, I'm going to have to show something gross here briefly. Remember this? Remember this? Well, let's look at this edit.
Life is a party, my home is the club. I party like a rock star, dance until I drop. My life is a party, my home is the club. My stage is the dance floor, party never stop. Are you ready?
Yes, science is gay, and so are you for believing in it. But one of the lines that I think is so impactful, I've seen this maybe hundreds of times, but if you're seeing this for the first time, it is hopefully impactful. It packs a punch. And what is it essentially communicating? Yeah, space colonization is a subversion of the Faustian spirit. I don't know that I can entirely unpack that at this moment, but my understanding at least is the Faustian spirit has to do with a sort of spiritual understanding or a striving to overcome. Space colonization, though, would be a subversion of that, which is instead of going into the depths of, I don't know if I may be completely wrong about this, but instead of going into the depths of the human character to elicit something greater, you escape the world and sort of give up on things. I think that's maybe halfway what it's getting at, unless I misunderstand it entirely. But this idea of the future of space, aliens, the government, what was it, like the Department of War came out with the alien website or whatever. You're going to see this happening a lot more. The legitimization of aliens and space is going to come to the forefront of mainstream discourse. And at the heart of it is the space race that we engaged in with the Soviets. Surely that's the what is it, predecessor to all of this, to NASA and to the Apollo missions, etc., the moon landing. Before all of that was Sputnik. So it really is crucial to understand how this changes our framing, whatever you want to think of, space exploration or anything related to it. The idea that Sputnik changed the Earth itself into a canvas psychologically for people that were aware of this or just introduced to this idea. After Sputnik, the technology surrounds and encompasses the globe itself and provides a perspective point that just shifts the way people view the world. When McLuhan says that additionally says that the Earth turns into a canvas or a work of art, he talks about this as ecology, the birth of the planet as a work of art that it is up to humans to influence and manage. Ecology did not exist as such before Sputnik. So when McLuhan says Sputnik turned the world into a canvas or work of art, he means that humanity suddenly became conscious of the planet as a single designed object. Just as a painter stands outside a canvas and can contemplate its overall form, Sputnik allowed mankind to imagine standing outside the Earth symbolically. The satellite orbiting overhead created a new perspective. Earth became visible as a whole. National boundaries appeared less significant. Humanity became aware of itself as one interconnected system. The planet became something that could be managed, engineered, designed, and altered. This anticipates later phenomenon: global environmentalism, climate science, systems theory, global telecommunications, the famous blue marble photographs from space. McLuhan's point is that these developments were not primarily caused by space photography itself. Rather, Sputnik initiated a new psychic environment in which people began thinking globally. So surely we can understand the instrumentality of this from a Soviet perspective, which is attempting to convince people of the, workers of the world unite, understanding things in a very internationalist, anti-nationalist perspective. But we can also see how even capitalism or liberalism more broadly, or specifically, I guess, liberalism, this kind of perspective is advantageous and precedent of that as well, or just sort of instrumental in the manipulation and proliferation of liberalism as a system. The central McLuhan concept is the distinction between figure and ground. Most people focus on the figure, the obvious event. The figure was Soviet technological success, Cold War competition, and rocket science. That is the figure, but the figure exists within a ground. And the ground is the transformation of human consciousness, the emergence of a planetary perspective, and the creation of a global electronic environment, which we are very much embedded in at this point. McLuhan often argued that the ground matters more than the figure because environments reshape perception without being noticed. And this also ties into McLuhan, his idea of the global village. Sputnik accelerated what McLuhan later called the global village. He argued that electronic media abolishes distance. Information travels instantly, causing humanity to experience events everywhere simultaneously. And Sputnik is symbolic of this. So the satellite itself was less important than what it represented. The end of isolated national spaces. The beginning of a planetary nervous system. And this is how McLuhan understands the electronic age. Electronics, circuitry, electromagnetism being an extension of our very central nervous system. Which is a very odd way to conceive of things, but it seems to be resonantly true. And the realization that humanity inhabits a shared electronic environment. In this sense, Sputnik was not merely a machine orbiting Earth, it was a perceptual event that taught humanity to see Earth from the outside. The world, essentially, in this sense, becomes something to administer, something to engineer, something to model, something to redesign, which naturalists and, I guess, just general, what would you say? Like, again, this goes against, you would assume that the people who care most about the planet, hippies and Mother Nature types, would be against this engineering of things. They would understand that that the Earth, and maybe this is why autists and retards come up with the extinction, what is it called, like you're anti-human, anti-humanity, what is it called, not anti-humanism, what is it? Let me put this on screen. The people cheering for humanity's end. Oh, we shouldn't be surprised to see Michel Foucault reference here. Foucault's central idea is the ways we understand ourselves as human beings aren't timeless or natural, no matter how much we take them for granted. Rather, the modern concept of man was invented in the 18th century and emergence, blah, blah, blah. Man would be better erased, like a face drawn in the sand at the edge of the sea. Faggot. But, again, this idea that the actual extinction of Homo sapiens, yeah, so people, this kind of touches on something that is prescient, which is nature runs better without humanity. Well, surely we would want to find some kind of balance with humanity, but there are seemingly people who believe that things are so beyond the pale that we would rather erase ourselves. The first Anthropocene anti-humanism, inspired by revulsion at humanity's destruction of the natural environment. Anti-humanist future and the transhumanist futures are opposites in most ways, but both are worlds from which human beings have disappeared, and rightfully so. Terrifying. Fucking terrifying. But yes, all of this can be charted back to Sputnik and the idea of conceiving of the Earth. When Sputnik left the Earth, it suddenly, globally, allowed people to rightfully or wrongfully, perhaps wrongfully in many ways, conceive of the world as a, as a canvas. something to be engineered, administered, managed, and manipulated. That's about it, boys. Thank you so much for putting up with me. I'm not even sure if this is listenable based on the audio quality, but if you've stuck with me so far, blessings. Hope you have a wonderful Sunday, and thank you for your time. Other than that, there's not much else to say other than we will see you in the circle.